This video will change how you view watercolor. And let me explain. I always tell you in watercolor, sometimes it's very counterproductive, very ineffective to have a predetermined process in mind. And to be honest with you, I painted multiple scenes from this same area that you're seeing here. This is Holmes County, Ohio. And I had like 3 complete mess ups, one after the other, of similar scenes, not this one. Then I decided I'll just jump into water and kind of paint this. What you're seeing me doing here is a sketch that this is like a necessary evil. I didn't want to do any sketch, but I did need to have some kind of an understanding of the overall proportions and the composition. Otherwise, I would get lost. But as you can see, this is far from a final sketch, and it doesn't tell me where each car is and where each detail is. And that's exactly the point. That's what I want to show you, how when I didn't do that, when I didn't follow a super accurate process, the result is much, much better. And I'm telling you, it's worth watching this because you'll see exactly how it all connects. So I'm starting with a simple wash for the sky. Now, my goal with the first wash is to just jump into water. I have no plan, again. And these kinds of paintings, they usually start with the sky. It makes sense. It's a big wash and you work top to bottom. But what I will say I tried doing is making a point of having a sky that's relatively clear, removing all the clouds. But what I am making sure I do is get a bit of variation in some areas being a little bluer, especially at the top. Think about it like me averaging out the detail. So it goes dark and then light because of the clouds. I just went dark and then light. And then towards the bottom, more gray. You can see the clouds make it a little more of a gray blue. As long as I capture that pattern, I'm good. Now, as I get to the ground, yes, things will begin to get a little more complex and a little more involved, but pay attention to, think about the last time you painted something and maybe you obsessed over the shapes you're working on and the details, and just look at how I paint this with pretty much zero of that obsession and how it still ends up working out. Okay, this obsession doesn't tend to serve you well from experience. It's okay to obsess over a specific area and kind of work it and rework it until it looks perfect. But you have to remember that the whole thing, if you are able to somehow match the colors and the values and the shapes you're seeing, it's gonna work out okay. So you don't have to worry about every little thing merging with every other thing, if that makes sense. So, while I have the sky going, why not paint these roofs wet and wet? But I'm aware that this might end too light and I'll have to come back and rework it. Okay. Now, my main, obviously, I love cars and this is a parking lot. So when most people, they see a mess here and I say, paint a beautiful mess. That's okay. It's not so much that this mess is hard to paint, it's just that so many people are a little deterred by it. But if you're like me, you might discover that you end up painting much better works when you paint these kinds of subjects and throw yourself in the water. Much more than if you paint a very pretty subject that's very organized. And it has a lot of open areas. Like this has some open areas, but you know what I mean. Not a lot of small fragmented details. You might find that you're having trouble with these kinds of subject matter, and this works better for you. Because right now, I have my wash. I painted the roofs, and then I'm going down to the walls that are a little warm. The key here is to stop where the cars are, and then kind of assess the situation. Skip the highlights. Paint the ground at a convincing kind of value, So all the way down to the line where the cars begin and some more involved and complex highlights begin, I'm going to be a little more like wet and wet, direct, and take my time just to complete that area as much as I can. Now, I tried taping this back in and then I was like, nah, I'm not going to tape it. I was having trouble with it. I'll just hold it down. The reason you're seeing this weird buckling is first, I cut this piece of paper from a large roll, so it had a curve built into it. Second, one side is taped, the other is not, and I painted the top. So the top curved even more on me. You'll see later how it kind of flattens gently and with time. Now, the horizon line here is pretty important. This is pretty much just not an overcast scene, not against the light. This is just light coming from a very diffused way. What happens with these kinds of scenes is you see the natural color of things. You see the natural color of the ground, of the grass, of the cars. It's not so much atmospheric. So what you want to do is make sure you capture these colors. And when it comes to the horizon, we don't have this haze. We don't have any. We just have horizon line. And it's clear and it's visible. And if you go too light here, you'll have to repaint it, which you want to avoid if possible, because then you'll start having weird layering. I actually had that happen to me in the failed attempts of a similar scene that drove me nuts. Now, I will share probably in the future. But in any case, remove the 2 other pieces of tape there. I don't need them, and I'm just going to develop this. Now, my mind, the way I'm thinking about this right now is, okay, I have the foliage and the trees that I see here. I'm trying to make them as organic and as varied as I can, as much as possible. And then this is going to lead straight to the asphalt of that parking lot, straight into that gray. Now, that gray isn't a perfect gray. It has its biases. So think about asphalt, sky. You'll get a bit of blue in it. You'll get a little coolness in it. You also might get a little purple in it. I noticed that asphalt tends to be a little purple sometimes, depending on the light and shadow. Sometimes when it's very atmospheric, it tends to be a lot more purple. But here we're getting a relatively natural color. Now we're coming to the most important part, and that is the cars, because the cars are the details that your eye is going to get pulled into after it finishes resting on the larger areas. And look, I'm not going to tell you this is easy, but the way it works for me is I just paint, I leave whatever highlights I feel should be left behind. My shapes are a mess. They're not organized, yet it ends up working. I'm not accurate here. It's important to mention I'm not accurate. Notice all the highlights I'm leaving, okay? The shapes of the highlights are not accurate. That's the key point. If I had an accurate sketch, yes, this could have been more accurate. The downside is I'd lose that spontaneity and that jumping in the water effect, okay? So just be aware of that. But here's where you really want to pay close attention. These highlights will slowly start to make sense and to communicate cars. Okay, it's just going to happen. Whether you like it or not, the illusion will be created. And this illusion is successfully created whenever you can have your entire mental faculties in the painting process. If you are overthinking things and you're not working by instinct, you will lose it at some point. It's just how it happens. That's unavoidable. But if you have your all dedicated into the painting, then you will catch it, you will find it, you will be able to capture it. This is why filming while painting is a bit of a mental challenge, because there's always a little voice in the back of your head that's trying to make it entertaining, that worries even just 1 or 2% about getting a good result. That's a problem. All of these things are a problem. And I've been going through this path where it gets a little harder because now I'm way more involved with my painting processes, whereas in the past I would go a little more haphazardly. Now I want to achieve a lot of things with them, and it's even harder than before. So hopefully, despite that obstacle, I'm still doing a good job, and I get less painting time these days, so you lose a bit of the edge, but I'll get it back. So in any case, darkened a bit towards the bottom. Now, of course, mine is yellow. The painting is actually, the grass should be green. Don't worry, it's going to get greener. I'm going to do another layer to darken it later on, and the camera is lying a bit here. It's actually a little more green than you can see. It just looks a little yellow. Now, at this point, as a beginner, you might get frustrated with all these white highlights and a mess. You might be thinking, I messed it up. This isn't going nowhere. Pay attention to the next 5 minutes. Okay, you'll be shocked at the difference. Without opaque paint, we're gonna add opaque paint, but without corrections, just by addition from this stage onto the finished piece, you will see just by adding, this will start communicating to you, okay? And this is a great opportunity to mention that if you want to paint Alla Prima and you want to paint more free watercolors, check out the frustration-free watercolor course. I'm going to put a link, first one in the description box below. Thousands of students have been through it. Nothing but raving feedback that I get every week. People find their freedom finally, right? With that freedom, you can go a more technical route. You can go a more loose and abstract. You can do whatever you want. Just get that freedom first. I'm telling you. Check it out. First link in the description box below. And look at these shadows, okay? I'm just putting in some shadows. These justify the highlights, and these help the highlights tell the story. Are my shadows accurate? Nope. Are my highlights accurate? Nope. Are they kind of vague and crooked and, some of them ugly maybe? Yes. But the message will still come across. You will see. Now, this is magic. I am involving, and this is very similar to my other parking lot painting at night. I'm involving a couple of other colors. So I'm adding a bit of reds as I see them. I'm going to add a bit of blue and black as I see them. And it's very useful just from a technical standpoint. While you have that paint, just paint everything that is that paint. Right? It's much easier than to constantly clean your brush and mix a new paint. You have a red, paint all the reds. And to me, it's actually productive, and it works even better because I get to jump around a piece and be expressive, right? Now, the cars are starting to make sense, funny enough, but we're still not there. We're getting there. Okay, you'll see it will improve. The shadow under the cars is very, very important. You can see it in the reference photo. It's a big part of what makes the cars feel real and believable. You can see it on the rightmost. I don't know what it is exactly. It looks kind of like a Chevrolet. I don't know, some kind of a pickup truck, whatever it is. Ford, I don't know, Ford 150. I don't know what it is actually just by looking. It's not a Ford, I don't think. But in any case, it's very crooked and messy, but the overall, get one car to kind of look like a car and everything else reads well. Now we're going to do that bit of glaze to darken the front. While I'm darkening it, it's also very important for me to green it a little more. The way you green it is by adding more blue. Okay, so I'm going to start adding gradually more and more blue to this shape. It looks strong. The reason it looks strong is that the asphalt is too light. Not because it's too strong. It looks too dark compared to the asphalt and the ground there. What's the fix? Darkening the asphalt. And that's what we're going to do in a moment. Not only will it make sense with the foreground, it will also make the cars pop a little more, okay? Because the light will pop a little more against the darker asphalt. But I do find that these grays is something that a lot of people struggle with. Like, how do I mix? By the way, look at this nice touch. I'm going to do a bit of wet and wet with color of similar value. Just, it's an interesting little result to get some variation that's still subtle. You'll see it in the final scan. It's going to be really hard to see in the camera, but this keeps the values subtle and interesting. So I was going to say something like to the tone of, okay, I know a lot of people struggle with grays and shadows and like what color should they be. I don't overthink these things. What I try to ask myself is what color is the closest to what I'm seeing? And this is definitely a gray. So once I put this gray in, now I get a choice. Shouldn't it be cooler or warmer? Look at this brush mark, by the way, for the car there at the corner. It's going to look fantastic. Give it a moment. I'll add some highlights later on. But this is like an awesome dry brush moment that I like. So just put whatever you think is closest and then shift it wet and wet if necessary to make it more like the color you're after. You see those fields at the front, they started as yellow, right? And nothing's wrong with that. What's more important sometimes is the end composition, how it all connects together. And sometimes you wouldn't know until you finish it. It's kind of a guess. But that is often way more important than capturing the exact color. It's more about how everything works together. And is the color you did put there, whether accurate or not, makes sense for the entire composition, which is why a minimal palette is huge, because if you use just 3 primary colors, everything is mixed from those. You pretty much guarantee some kind of harmony in the colors. If you guarantee that harmony, the colors will work even if they're different from reality, which they are. I'm not a master of matching the exact color I'm seeing every single time. Not at all. If I just match a color in isolation, I can do that. But in the context of a painting and very complex shapes, a collection of complex shapes and details, I usually mess up the colors. I'll be honest with you. But because I'm using a minimal palette for the most part, like 5, 6 colors, it tends to work out at the end, okay? So now I'm adding a couple more shadows, a stronger red on the red car, funny enough. Makes sense. It's still a gray, but it's a red. And, just kind of spreading out these details, these shadows under cars that I forgot, because I don't have a shadow under every car here. I don't always know what I'm painting. I get the impression and then I paint it. Again, if you want more accurate, paint larger, sketch it out, take your time a bit. I find that this approach leads to better results for me. It's rare, but sometimes I can get a better result with a more thought out approach. Okay. Now, what I'm doing here is quite important. I have this beautiful fiery orange red. That's going to be a lot of taillights. Okay. So I'm just throwing these out there. Taillight here. A tail light there, a front light here and there, depending on where I see them. This is yet another hint that tells the viewer what they're looking at. Oh, it's a car. Okay. Sometimes it makes more of a difference. Sometimes it doesn't make any difference. The best thing you can do is just look at the painting, try and incorporate what you're seeing, and move on. Fix it later. First paint it, then make it perfect, or then make it look good. That's simply what works for me. I in a way, some ways I wish it was different. It isn't. That's just what works best for me. I would love to tell you otherwise if that was the case, but it's not. So in any case, now we're very advanced. We're going to start adding some small details, some small windows. And then after that, the next step would be to add some opaque touches to optimize some of the shapes of the highlights. Okay, because a lot of these highlights, again, were painted, all of them actually were painted negatively. When you negatively paint, it's harder, for me at least. It's just a different mindset shift, so you get a lot of inaccuracies. These darks are important though. They're the awnings and the entrances to stores and whatever is out there, right? We actually had lunch there in Holmes County, Ohio. Okay, look at this highlight. It's organizing the shape of the vehicle. And I'm going to just continue with that same kind of white paint. This is watercolor, by the way. It's not gouache. It's just a white watercolor. Any opaque white watercolor will work, okay? You get to add a lot of interest to all of those small details and to make it seem as though there are cars there in a variety of areas. You get to bring back highlights on the tires where you see the middle of the tires, the plate. I don't know what you call that. I always forget. Hubcap, I think, right? That's a little lighter, so you get to bring that back. All of these small details, not to mention there are some power lines that require to be a little more lighter, and there's the lines on the ground there on the parking lot showing the parking spaces. All of these little things make a difference. You want to show them. They're very weak here, but you can see them. So to me, this is the type of scene that, and I'm gonna add a bit of blue, opaque blue here. It adds more beauty and it makes sense. It reflects the sky. Here and there, random spots. Not much thought to it other than let's improve the details and the color harmony. This is the kind of thing that motivates me. It might not be the thing that motivates you. Don't try to imitate me. Just imitate my care to paint the things I care about, right? My care in subject selection. That's if you were to imitate anything, do that. So if something doesn't speak to you, but you think it's going to be a popular whatever result painting, it has potential to be exhibited, just don't, just don't, unless you're being paid to, and that's a different story. Just paint whatever you care about. I mean, life is too short, honestly. Here's those touches of highlight on that car that hopefully will tell the story. I actually missed a really strong tail light there that I will add now that I'm seeing it. I haven't painted. I'm looking at the finished painting here. I don't have that. I definitely would like to add that now that I see it. Honestly, I could do another pass over each and every car and kind of optimize it, and sometimes I do that. I think for this smaller piece, there isn't enough room really to optimize it any further, but what I will challenge you is, look, I jumped straight into this without a plan really, with barely a sketch, and the result was better than a lot of my pre-planned paintings. What does that tell you? What does that show you about what is possible in painting? Not just watercolor, It tells you that a lot of the result comes from where you are mentally as opposed to your techniques and your experience, all of that, okay? I hope that makes sense. If you find this approach fascinating and you'd like to learn how to do a similar thing or the same thing, check out the frustration-free watercolor course. First link in the description box below. Also, thank you so much to anyone who supports me over on Patreon. If you want to receive credits at the end of the videos, be sure to check that out. I promised a new exclusive process there coming up soon. I'm really swamped with work, but I'm getting on it. I haven't forgotten anything. I have a proper list for every single thing and every category of thing I'm doing. Trust me, I'm not forgetting anything. I'm just slow, unfortunately. But thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Let me know in a comment down below what would you like me to demonstrate next. I will see you in the next vid.